In high school, my mother always used to tell me, why can't you be like Theron, my older brother? He was 3 years older than me, and so she had him 3 years before she had me. So she spent all her time working with him and spend time. And you have to understand, after my mother and dad were first married, my dad worked on the railroad, and he worked down at Zane, which is down on the railroad tracks between Burrell and Milford. And I remember hearing her tell about what it was like for her to get married. See, they got married quite young. I think she was only 18 or 19 when they got married, and he moved her down there, but he'd be gone on the railroad all day, she said, and she'd be there alone, and at night she could see the beacon up here on Flat Top from down there, and she would cry because she was homesick. But anyway, she had him, and so she spent all of her time, and so by the time he was 3 years old, he could say his ABCs frontwards and backwards, and nursery rhymes he could say, but because she just spent all her time there, she didn't have a lot to do all day long. And so anyway, he was a lot smarter than me because she didn't spend any time with me, I guess. Anyway, she always wanted to know why I couldn't be. He got real good grades and I didn't, but I know why that is. It wasn't that he was a lot smarter. It was just that he studied more than me, so he earned them, and I didn't. But so through high school, I felt like, gee, anything he accomplishes or does in high school, I probably need to do. And he was a member of the FFA, and so he became a state farmer. So I figured I had to become a state farmer, so I worked toward it, and I did become a state farmer just like him. And they gave away a trophy at the end of the senior year, what they called Ag Man of the Year. And he was the Ag Man of the Year his senior year. So when I got to my senior year, I felt like I had to be Ag Man of the Year. Byron Peacock was the ag teacher. And I was actually the way they did the leadership in FFA then, at least in our chapter, was you was elected to be the president as a junior, and then your senior year, you automatically was the vice president, and you supervised and helped the president who was a junior that year, and so it worked that way. So I was the vice president the second year, or my senior year, but I was president my junior year. And I had my project, I took the ag classes, I went to the convention, I become a state farmer. So at the end of the year, when they were going to have the award assembly, I just knew that I was going to be Ag Man of the Year. There wasn't any question in my mind that I was going to be. And I had a friend, don't know, I need to name his name, but his dad had chickens at that time. And Mr. Peacock tried to convince him to really get in and become a state farmer and do a project with his chickens, but he didn't do it, and he didn't even take an ag class that year. And I didn't know till we went down to the awards assembly, and the president that year was Eddie Torres. And I remember sitting there beside Eddie, and I didn't go where they selected, I didn't go to the meeting where they selected the Ag Man of the Year, because I didn't want to sit there and say it ought to be me or anything, and I just felt like I shouldn't be there. But I knew I was going to get it, but Eddie said, I ought to let you know that this other boy is going to be Ag Man of the Year. And I said, what? You're kidding me. And he says, no. He said, we had selected you and voted on you, but Mr. Peacock said, what about this boy over here? I think you ought to maybe give it to him. And I said, he didn't even take an ag class this year. He didn't even do his project. He didn't even become a state farmer. And they said, well, we know that, and but he kind of pushed us, and so he's going to get it. And I remember saying, I'm going to hate him the rest of my life. And but that really isn't in my nature. I did feel bad because I didn't get that, and I earned it. I can honestly say that, at least over the one that got it. But fast forward a few years, I was called to be a member of the High Council. Mr. Peacock was also a member of the High Council, and many times he and I went on speaking assignments together. I never did really hate him after. In fact, we were really good friends, and I enjoyed the time that I spent with him on my speaking assignments and serving on the High Council. But I did feel that I was cheated out of something I earned there in high school. One other thing, that Theron was the student body president, so I felt like I had to be the student body president. So I was going to run for student body president. They came and told me that I'd also been selected to run as what they called then amusement commissioners is what they called them, but it was the ones that planned all the activities and activity director. And they said, we know you'll win that. We're not sure for sure you'd win to be the student body president. Said, so do you want to take the for sure thing, or do you want? I said, oh no, I got to take the other. I didn't tell them, but in my mind, my brother was the student body president. I've got to do that. So I run for student body president, and we campaigned, and we did a lot of campaigning back in then and those days. And it was a lot of fun, and that we did one or two things, or at least some of the boys that was on my party did a thing or two that maybe wasn't quite,
kosher.
Kosher, yeah. On one of my campaigns, I had 2 or 3 boys that was on my party that was supporting me anyway, that I wasn't, to my knowledge, until I saw it too, went and found somebody's, and I don't know whose, old outhouse, a 2-seater outhouse. They brought it up and put it on the steps of the schoolhouse as you go in the front door. And they wrote on one side, vote here, and on the other side, you can imagine what they wrote on the other side, what you do on the other side. Anyway, the principal wasn't really very happy with us and wanted to know who brought it. They told him it was my group, my campaign that did. And so he made us remove it, which we did. But there was a girl on the other campaign that started a story around, and she went to the 7th grade kids, who were the youngest, that didn't really know, because they were able to vote then too, and said the principal asked him to do some things and he wouldn't do it. Now, is that the kind of a person you want to be president of the school? Which wasn't really true, but that's what she told them. To make a long story short, I lost the election by 7 votes. And I lived through it, but I still didn't get to be like my older brother and be the student body president.
But you still got a memory of it. 7 votes.
7 votes. Never forgot. Oh, I was going to dislike her too for that. But fast forward there, I interviewed her for a Temple recommend, and bygones were bygones. It didn't affect me anymore. It's just not been in my nature to really hold a grudge and dislike people.
campaigning in our day was really, should I say, fun. It was blue against gold. It was really competitive. And we painted the streets with whitewash. That means you painted everybody's name in white paint all over the streets. And so you could only start at a certain time. And so it was just gung-ho when that time came. And whoever got what street we always wanted Main Street or something, where most of the cars went down, so you could see everybody's name, who was running for president, who was running for this and that. It was written all over the streets in town. And then there was just different campaigning going on. We had parties and
bonfire parties at night and stuff.
Then when you had election day, you would vote, and then that night would be a big program, and everybody would come to it was at the church, wasn't it? Where we all went?
Or the gym, which was it?
I can't remember. I remember being in the church one time, and anyway, it was just crowded. I mean, it was packed full. And then they announced who got president and who got all of the things that went on. And sometimes one party would get a whole bunch, and the other party would only get one or two off from their group that won anything. But anyway, it was quite the competitiveness going on. So, but it was fun. We had FHA that I was a member of. I don't know if they have that still. I don't know. But the Future Homemakers of America. And anyway, that was fun. And we did, I love basketball, but girls basketball in those days was half court. You only played half court. The guards were on one side guarding the other team and to the middle of the gym. And then your forwards was on the other side of the team, and the other team's guards were on that team. So we only played half court. So anyway.
You had 6, didn't you? 3 on each side.
Yeah. Anyway, I was a guard, and nobody liked me to guard them because I'd always jump high enough to get the ball. I could see where the ball was going, and I'd get the ball and throw it over to the other side. And so it was fun. But we didn't go anywhere or do any games or anything. It was just, we did have, they called them, what did they do? Intramurals. During lunchtime. You'd go and play ball during lunchtime and have a little competition there, just with the kids at school. And then I was cheerleader for, 3 years or more? But in my day, you could be cheerleader, plus you could be in the Wolverines. So I was in the Wolverines too. But our Wolverines were a lot different than the girls now. It was more kind of marching. We had white boots that we wore and short skirts, and we did a lot with formations in lines and with hands and stuff like that. We didn't do a lot of these acrobat things that the girls do now, but it was fun. And we'd go to other schools when our ball boys went and perform at other schools. And then we'd always perform at our school. So I'd be cheerleader, then have to hurry and go change and get into my Wolverine outfit and then hurry and change and get back into cheerleader outfit. So it was fun. And I spent lots of time at school just practicing. So we'd go early in the morning for Wolverine practice, and usually cheerleading practice was after school. So, and then I did still a lot with drawing and painting for it was called The Breeze. That was our student newspaper. And so I would do a lot of drawing for that, for the paper. And then when we went to state, I got to, they wanted me to draw a wolf to do the banners to go to state with. And I've got one in the sewing room that we did. And then I also painted, I don't know, maybe the first wolf on the gym floor. Mm-hmm. That was when Holly and Chan were babies, and I'd take them up and they'd just play around the gym there while I painted on the floor. And that stayed
the
on
center circle.
The big center circle, the big wolf head in the center. And so high school was fun. We had a lot of dances after ball games that was there. And on Fridays, we'd always go down in the gym and have dances and kind of group things. When we was in grade school, we always did square dances. Yes, that was so fun. Loved to dance. And I was I learned tap dancing and ballet and when the teacher would come here to Enterprise. And then never a 4th of July or 24th would go by without us being asked to perform in the program. So that was fun.
Mother can still walk on the top of her toes.
Yeah. Very quietly. There.
I was a member of the FFA, Future Farmers of America organization. I was the president of it 1 year and vice president 1 year of that organization. I became a state farmer, what they call a state farmer, they did back then. You had to have projects that you carried on and kept records and met requirements, and they be called what was called a state farmer. We'd go up to the FFA convention each year in Salt Lake, and our advisor would take us up, and we'd go to the convention and meet with other members of the FFA from all over the state. And there they picked a star state farmer, and all of our information was put in to be examined, but I didn't win that, but I was a state farmer.
What about you, Mom?
Let's see, high school, yeah, we...
In high school, the different kinds of classes that we had, I remember anyway of taking chemistry, and that was really hard for me, I remember.
Biology.
We had biology,
Hard.
English, math, but we didn't go into a lot of algebra, and I don't remember algebra.
I took algebra.
Oh, did you?
Thank goodness for Homer Pittard. he was in our class, and he was so smart, and I just did not understand algebra at all. And he would try to help me, and I would kind of get through my whatever I needed to do for that day. And I thought, I'm sure glad he's my friend. he was so good to help me get through that class. But oh my gosh, now these kids take what? A lot past algebra that you can get in high school. That's as high as we went in high school, was algebra. And so for me, that was really way up there. And English, we did not have very good English teachers, as you guys know. From our speaking, from my spelling. I was pretty good in elementary, really. And then when I went up to Salt Lake and took a course there in LDS business, why, I was taking a shorthand class. And you were taught to shorten your words down, so that you knew what you were writing, but yet it was short. It wasn't spelled right, but you could get, and so that really stuck in my head. And so even today, I just spell different than what, it spelled like. And there was just little lines and things that you learned to take for shorthand, and I loved it, but I didn't go really into depth of it. But some people could take shorthand and listen to talks and stuff and get it word for word. And I remember Aunt Gail took shorthand, and she was really good. She worked as a secretary for somebody, and that's what she did. But anyway, just regular classes.
Didn't have a very broad spectrum of classes. Mm-hmm. Yes, in high school, I participated in basketball for a year till I was a sophomore, and I can still even remember the end of my career. Was over to Cedar at the old field house. We were playing a game, and I was junior varsity, and I sprained my ankle real bad, and I wasn't able to play the rest of the year. And so the next year, when we tried out, I was cut off the team because I was a junior the next year. And we had 6 others in my class that had played the year before. And so as I talked to the coach, he said, I just want you to know that I just can't carry you this year because I've got 6 juniors this year, and that means I'll have 6 seniors next year probably, and I just can't have more than that. So that ended my basketball career, but I played baseball all through high school. In fact, I started as a freshman because one of the games that I remember most about was down at Moapa Valley. I was the catcher as a freshman because none of the other kids dared catch and liked to catch. And Colleen's brother, older brother Larry, was a pitcher, and Van Chambers, and they threw really hard. That's why no one would catch, but I wasn't afraid to do it, and I was smart enough to know if you catch, you get to play too. And so I got to play all the time. But down there, their baseball field was on a part of their football field, kitty corner, so that it went kind of out in a circle there, but they didn't have a fence or anything, and I really got into one, and it went over the left fielder's head, and it rolled all the way down to the end of the football field. And I made it, by the time he run clear down there and got it and relayed it back, I made it clear to third base. And everybody just laughed and laughed. I just couldn't run. I was so tired I couldn't hardly run. And I've never forgot that. And they teased me because I couldn't even get a home run out of one that was hit that far and rolled that far. But I played baseball all through high school.
We had a lot of dances. They used to have stake dances. What did they call them? Like your golden green ball. But we would learn, and I think you kids have learned dances before the golden green balls. We did that.
Floor show.
And floor shows. And but we used to go perform at St. George with all of the region on the Dixie Sun Bowl. And they did big dances down there to where you would learn them, and then you'd go down there and do them with all of the other kids that had learned the same dance. And so that was fun. I always wanted to go up to Salt Lake and do it was called a girls' dance. Just the girls would dance. But they stopped that when we got up to the age to be able to go. But they stopped those. And they used to go up there and do big productions of the young men and young women. Where did they do them?
They'd do them in the football field up there.
Field. But anyway, I thought, oh, that would be so fun to be able to do that. But they had stopped those, and they moved them just to regional, like down in St. George. So, but that was fun. We spent many, many hours practicing for those dances, especially for the girls' dance. So, well, we went on a lot of group dates. We did rook parties when we were in grade school. But after that, we didn't do much. During the harvest time, when they harvested the potatoes, they always let the school out so that the kids could go help pick up potatoes. That's where they wore a belt and they picked them up by hand.
Put them in sacks.
Put them in sacks. And, but my mother would never let me go. She says, you can't go. She said, that will ruin your back. You're not going to go do that. So I never got to do it, and I thought, everybody else is doing it, but she wouldn't let me do it. So. But that went on for almost how many weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. They let the kids out of school just to help the farmers get their potatoes in.
And they would earn a little money doing it, so they enjoyed doing it.
Yeah.
But we do some crazy things in our young life and in our teenage years. And I was trying to think. Theron had to have been over 16 or 17, so that would have made me 13 or 14, somewhere along in there. My dad had two trucks, and he hauled baled hay to St. George. And this one day, Theron was driving one, and one of my mother's cousin, Rod Staley, was driving the other one, and they were both loaded. And Rod left ahead of us, and I was with Theron in the newer truck. And as we were going up Cottonwood, they were bobtail trucks, and we had 7 high of baled hay on. And I just said, Theron, I think I'll climb up on top of the hay, and when we pass Rod, I'll jump over onto his load and ride in with him. And he says, oh, you won't do that. I said, yeah, I'll do that. And he says, oh, you won't. You're chicken. You're chicken to do that. I says, oh, watch me. And so as he was going up Cottonwood, I clumb out the driver's side window and up onto the cab and clumb up with the rope up on top. And so I rode up on top of the hay to Vale, and as we come down into Vale, I could see Rod's truck, Rod just going up Vale Hill, going out of Vale. And as we was going across what is now Dameron Valley, Theron caught up to Rod. And so Theron passed him. And I don't know how wide the space was between us there, but when he passed him, I ducked down and I jumped over onto that truck. And I'll be honest with you, it scared me to death, because when that wind caught me, it jerked me back, and I wasn't expecting something like that. But luckily, I lit on the back end of that truck on the hay. And so then I crawled up along the hay and down onto the cab. I thought, well, I'll get down, get in with Rod, and ride on into St. George. We got up there a little further, and there Theron was stopped to see whether I made it or not. I got down on the cab and laid across the front of the cab there down to the driver's window and to Rod, and he said, "You little bugger." He saw out of the mirror. He saw me on top of the truck, and then when it went by, I wasn't there anymore. And so he wondered and worried where I was at. But he had his wife and one of their kids in, so there wasn't room for me to get in the cab. And I says, "Well, I'll just climb back up on top, and when you passes again, I'll jump over." "Oh, no, you won't. You stay right where you're at." And so I did. But through the years, I've thought how crazy that was, because I maybe shouldn't have made it. I don't know how wide that gap was between us when we went by there. I have no idea. But it couldn't have been really close, because you know what, when you pass somebody, what it is or what.
Especially trucks.
Especially trucks. There's another time I maybe shouldn't have made it and shouldn't be here still, but still am.
So did you ever tell your mom and dad?
Oh, not for years. Not for years. I think we finally told them when they were old, but they just shook their head. But I wondered that. I know who gave that to me, or at least the way I remember of getting my nickname Toad came from Lyle Jones. And we lived down on the farm during the summer, and Lyle's uncle, Claire Hunt, was just a block on down the road, or a quarter of a mile down the road, and Lyle would go down there in the summertime and work for his uncle, and so we associated a little, and I remember him calling me Toad. But a few years ago, I mentioned that when I spoke in Lyle's funeral, his wife Joanne asked me to speak in his funeral, and I mentioned in there that he was the one that gave me my nickname that I remember, but I didn't remember why. And after I got through speaking, Sheldon Clove was asked to sing a song, and he got up, and before he sang his song, he said, "I thought I'd tell you why and how he got his name Toad." He said his older brother Theron, we called Frog. And so he was just a little toad. And so I didn't know that's how it came, but I guess that's where it came from anyway. And so I was Toad all the rest. There's still people that call me Toad from years, old people that I haven't seen for years and years.
A toad?
One thing that I remember enjoyed doing in our teenage years was when we'd have general priesthood meetings. And I don't remember how often we'd go to Panaca, but Panaca and Caliente and Pioche, Nevada, was part of our stake. And so some of the time we'd go over there for general priesthood meeting. I honestly don't remember having them here, and maybe it's because of why I loved to go over there so much on Sunday evening. And maybe it was because of two things that happened. After the meeting, there was an ice cream shop across the street, and they would stop and buy us an ice cream cone to eat on the way home. And we would listen to Gunsmoke on the radio and back then, and I just remember how much we enjoyed that, just listening, because all you'd do is they would just talk, and so you'd have to, in your own mind, imagine what was happening as they talked about what was happening, but I remember Gunsmoke being there and on there, and I remember that and eating the ice cream, so I just loved to go to General Priesthood meeting or over to Panacker Stake Priesthood meeting over there.
The thing that I really wanted to do was art. And I remember, you know, in the magazines, you see these pictures of you draw something and send it in, and they will tell you how you did. And so I did that in high school. And I remember one time being in one of the classes, and my, I think it was Mom, come and got me out, and she says, "There's a man here to come and see you. You need to, I'll take you home." And it was a man from this art school, and he came and talked to Mom and Dad and me. It was during school time, and he said, "We really would like you to take this course and become an artist." And he says, to start out with, it'll be $300. And that was quite a bit in those days for me to, you know, even think about. And so I didn't think much more about it after that. But anyway, it was fun to know that somebody thought that I had potential, you know, in that. And then I love to do drawings of dresses and things like that, and I thought maybe I'll be a fashion designer. And then when I went up Salt Lake, I had got into my mind, maybe I'll be a model. And so I went to a modeling school, and it's called a finishing school. You had to take a finishing school first, and then if you succeeded in that well enough, they put you into modeling. And so I got to do that.
I suppose I always planned to be a farmer. I don't remember of ever thinking. The only other thing that I thought of is when I came home from my mission, I thought I wanted to be maybe go back to school and be a seminary teacher. And I told my dad that, and he said, "Well, part of the reason I have what I have here is because I was planning on you coming and working with me." And so I felt like I should stay then and work with him. He had started a commercial fertilizer business just while I was gone on my mission, and he had me run that. And he said, "I got this business with the idea that you would run it when you came home." And so I did that, and never did go on to college any more than 1 year at business school, and that was all. That's why I'm still so dumb.